Hello, friends. A very warm welcome on this particular YouTube session video. Again, if you're new and you love the content, click on a like. And if you feel there are others out there who might need help with topics like this, share this video because today we are going to talk about some of the common obstacles, challenges entrepreneurs face. And we'll have many more of these series of videos, some of the challenges and what ideally could be a possible solution in those. Again, if you're new to this channel, subscribe to it and let's get started. One of the biggest challenges entrepreneurs face is with a cash flow management, especially if they are a startup. The challenge is how much money do I need and would that be enough to survive? And what is important to understand about cash flow management in the world of entrepreneurship is the fact that when you put a business feasibility together, and yes, you'll have to learn the art of working and putting a business feasibility together, what it means, how much money you would need, what would be the costs, operational costs, so on and so forth. Since you are doing a startup, the chances of this startup would usually be pretty small, so it's easy to do a feasibility report. But I see a lot of entrepreneurs get started in a particular business based on hunch that, because I think so, I feel good about it, that won't be enough. Passionate will not be enough alone. You'll have to learn certain skills. If you don't have them, look for those who have those skills, sit down with them, pick their brains, learn from them, and put a proper budgeting and planning and critical thinking on how you're going to maintain that cash flow, not just with a good positive case scenario, but what is the worst possible thing that could happen and put that down as well. Another example on a cash flow management is when you're charging, you can either charge in advance, depending on what your services are. You can also, if you're invoicing them rather than having a 1 month or a 1 quarter payout. And yes, some companies have that, but they're more established companies that do that. As a startup, you might want to do a 1 week payout. So that way you have a proper inflow of funds coming in, just to give you an example on how that can work. Okay, so that's extremely important. And at the same time, you don't want to go into a 45, 60, 90-day invoicing and all that. As soon as your client is ready, send them the invoice, give them 48 hours, tell them it's upfront, if your industry allows you to do that, or ask them to pay you within 7 days. So these are some of the tips on how you would be able to avoid some of the cash flow management challenges from a consumer clientele point of view. Of course, the other part is how you're going to use the funds you get in to move forward. So that's number one, right? Number two, one of the other challenges entrepreneurs face is hiring employees. How do I do that? How many interviews? What should their qualification be? And then here's what I have learned. Now, keep in mind that everything I'm sharing with you comes from my personal experience at the same time. Otherwise, the chances are I probably wouldn't be sharing with you, or the chances are I'll quote you someone that I've learned that from and haven't done it myself. So in this example, in this video, in fact, we'll talk about things I did as an entrepreneur, as a startup, to get the ball rolling. How do you hire employees? What are you looking for? Now, one of the things I would encourage you to do is that do not get too overwhelmed with hiring employees. And it can get too overwhelming. You can lose a lot of time, energy, effort without actually seeing the result. So you don't want to be in that position. And how do you do that? How do you change that? The way to go around that is allow walk-in interviews. Let your gut feeling kick in. Have a look at some of the CVs. If you're putting an advertisement out there, be as precise and as specific as you can be, so you don't have to go through a lot of CVs to figure out which one fits in. And to be exactly precise, you should know exactly what you're looking for. As ridiculous or as easy as it sounds, that's what you should be doing for hiring employees. The other part is pay close attention to referrals. Someone you know who knows someone, pay close attention, because that helps a lot with credibility, saves you a lot of time to go through those CVs and things like that. And be very accurate and sharp to the point in the questions you need to know when you're interviewing someone, when you're hiring them. So that's the second one on hiring employees. And Do not be ashamed of what they would think about you. Will make them understand what your industry, what your business involves, and how they could be of service for you. And your interview should be moving around that area of expertise, regardless of the qualifications and experiences. Don't get me wrong, they are important, but look past that and look in terms of practicality and what is doable. Okay, so that's extremely important. Next, time management. One of the things, if you're already an entrepreneur or you want to be an entrepreneur, you could be facing is time management. How many hours do you need to work as an entrepreneur? You know what's the right answer for that? As many hours as necessary to get your business up and running, to get your business profitable. You're like, really? Yeah. You see, entrepreneurship is just more than a cool word. It's hustling, it's grinding, it's going all out to make things happen. So, how do you manage this time? Number one, take complete audit of your time, not just your finances, but a 100% audit of your time, your calendar, your appointments, especially if you're a startup. Every minute matters. How do you spend that? Are you spending that with the naysayers, the time wasters? Are you doing other people's job because you're just too good? So you'll have to figure out all of those things, and you'll have to make sure that every minute, every hour of your time is accountable in your journey to entrepreneurship. Just like money, time does not grow on trees. We all have 24 hours in a day. So you'll have to make sure that you are completely accountable to yourself or to someone else on how you decided to spend that time. Here are some tips. Create a to-do list. What goals you need to achieve today? And when you create this list, do not get too overwhelmed with this list. Oh my God, that's a lot. Whatever it takes, you have to do that. If it's on your list, you have to do it. Do not create one of those to-do lists that kind of, it didn't happen today. Hopefully it will happen tomorrow. Hopefully it will happen the next week. It defeats the purpose. Create a to-do list for today. That's important. Create a to-do list for today. Has to be done. You're not going to sleep without that. Yeah, and it will allow you to stay on direction, and at the same time, every week and every month, go back and look at your calendar and say, hey, I feel those meetings were not important. That could have been done by someone else, and I could have managed my time a lot better if I didn't do that. Go back and audit your time a week before, a month before, a quarter before, to see what's going on with your time. Where are you spending those 24 hours? And delegating will be a very important part. So that's my point number 4. Delegation. Now, this is a skill you will have to learn. The challenge is, but I do not know who can do this, who I can outsource this to. Then that's a skill you will have to learn. Good employees either work for you, and if that activity in your business is not worth your time, outsource it, pay someone to do it. Stay true to the core of what you should do and everything else around it. But everything else you believe takes the life out of you, you shouldn't be doing, outsource it. And yes, you'll have to pay someone some money to outsource this. But the reason you're paying someone the money to outsource and delegate that task is important, because then it gives you that much more time to expertise, to focus on what you actually should be doing. Don't be busy being busy. It can be unforgiving in jobs sometimes, but in the world of entrepreneurship, it probably wouldn't be. Definitely not when you are getting started in a startup company. So learn the art of delegating. This will allow you to understand, if you have employees, what should their tasks be. Don't dump everything on them without realizing. So that's wrong delegation, because that will be more time consuming for you. I've seen entrepreneurs and owners who are spending so much time with the wrong people in their company, explaining them how things should be done. Why did you hire them in the first place if all you have to do is keep explaining them again and again how that should be done? Delegate. And that brings me to the previous point. When you are hiring employees, you have to be really careful. Who are you hiring? Because delegation will come into place. If you hire the wrong people, it will eat up your time and you will not be able to delegate effectively. In fact, one of the single most things for me as a startup entrepreneur back in the days was the part where I learned the power of leveraging and delegating on the other people in the organization. That made me so good. I run a couple of different businesses. And all these businesses, when people look at me who do not know how to delegate, they say this about me: oh, you must be really very busy. I'm like, no, I'm not. Because my team makes me look good. You get my point? So that's on delegating tasks, why that is important to do. The next is marketing strategy. Marketing strategy in relation to budgeting. But I don't have the budget to market. Then don't focus on that marketing strategy. What product or services should I market first? It is not about your products or services that you should be thinking about marketing. It should be about what need of your consumer, of your client you are meeting today. That is the product or the service you need to be marketing first. Shall I print things out, put it in flyers, advertise, go on social media? Start with what comes to you passionately. None of this is right or wrong. All of this depends on the print media, the television media, the social media, the paid advertising on social media. All of this depends on what kind of budgeting you have. So the solution is create marketing plans and start putting ads or organic growth from whatever resources you have available right now. I see so many startups get paralyzed when it comes to marketing because they think that is the norm. The norm is what will serve your business. That's the norm. The vehicles to get there are too many. But which vehicle is important, comes naturally, meets your budget requirement, still serves the purpose, boom, you start with that. That doesn't mean that will be the only marketing strategy you will have moving forward, but that means that you're already getting started in the process and on that journey of starting to market something. So there's no right way of doing it. Immediately get to it. In fact, start marketing even when your product or service isn't even ready. Why? Let the people know about it. Be proactive about it. Now, that doesn't mean that they should be buying, but guess what? When you start marketing, people don't start buying on day one. They need to know a lot more. So start building those marketing strategies according to that. So that's important. The other part about startups and entrepreneurships is capital. Now you're like, I'm a solopreneur and I want to grow my business. How do I get the money? This is a skill you will have to learn over a period of time with a lot of rejections and learning how to do the feasibility reports. How do you learn the art of getting other people's money, capital invested in your entrepreneurship? By the way, that's just one way. The other way is learn the art of selling your services and products to a point where the capital is generated through marketing and sales, and that gives you enough funding. I know either cases where companies went from nothing to over $300 million in a year in revenue and more. In either cases, those who got funding from the market and those who were able to get zero funding and were able to scale it because of the products and the services they have. So there are two ways of doing that. And any other thing that comes in, like, okay, I could get some investors in and give them shares into the company and things like that. So it's very vital that you learn this skill, because money in the world of entrepreneurship is like a fuel that's going to run the engine of your business. If you run out of fuel, you won't have much of a business. And that's what happens to a lot of entrepreneurs, especially when they get started. They think because they're so good in doing something, everything else will fall in place. It doesn't. Being good in one thing could be a good starting point, but it is not a good point to keep going. You'll have to get good in a couple of other things that we are talking about in this video. We spoke about budgeting already. So budgeting will be very closely related to your capital. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. And the last one that I want to talk about is self-doubt. This is one of the biggest enemies you would be facing, because when you get started, you will be exhausted. You will be putting a lot more hours than you were doing before whatever you were doing. But you may not even be seeing the results of those hours being put in terms of monetary value. You might be having people in your community that would look and say, yeah, sure, you want it to be whatever. Yeah, let's see, we'll keep an eye. So the discouragement is coming from everywhere, correct? So all of this is what you marry as an entrepreneur when you're getting started, at least in the beginning. So it's going to be extremely easy to get discouraged. So how do you move forward? The way to move forward is when you wake up every single day as an entrepreneur, don't just get started with your work. Now, take some time off. The number one thing why businesses fail, according to success guru Tony Robbins and so many others out there, is the fact that 80% is psychology that they fail to protect. 20% is the skills. While they are important, you have to learn how to protect your psychology. So when self-doubt kicks in, and even before it kicks in, what you want to do is you want to be sure that you are able to surround yourself through YouTube's mentors, coaches, positive videos, successful entrepreneurs, their stories, so much of other tools when you're getting started that you're driven, that you wouldn't even feel where 18, 19 hours in a day of your time went by. That's what you want. When you start doing that, self-doubt starts to get suppressed and eventually go away. So that's one way of doing that. So start your day spiritually, be calm, do not start with a panic, be calm, get to learn, have your nice breakfast, and spend that time just to focus and target. Why are you doing this in the first place? Who are the ones who struggled? Don't look at some of the successful entrepreneurs' success stories, get inspired by the success stories, but figure out what went through in their life in those years before they made it there that made them who they are. And you will start realizing the self-doubt will either you will fuel it. Oh my God, what if my neighbor is right? Oh my God, what if my family? Oh my God. You can either fuel it, or you can change your focus and work on others who made it and use them as an inspiration and motivation to suppress and get rid of your self-doubt. That's extremely important, because self-doubt is where people give up. And then the other part is look at your goals. We teach this in the Unstoppable Millionaire workbook, why goal setting is so important for a startup, for an entrepreneur. Look at that goal, look at the task list, get going. Like, I don't have time for self-doubts, let's go. Wow, 5 people said no to me. I'm good to go and approach another 10 more. And that's how we keep moving forward. Yeah. So keep this in mind, write your things down, and I hope I was able to add some value for startup entrepreneurs, especially, and some of the challenges that they probably go through on this journey as well. So again, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you love it, leave a like. If you think someone needs to hear this out, click on the share button, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care. Have a good one. Bye for now.